Hello, my name is Taryn Michelle, and I blog for Patheos Pagan as Witch on Fire. So for my YouTube channel, Witch on Fire, I've been posting some videos, but it's been about a year since I really did much of this, and I've decided I need to get back into it. I had a really great prompt recently in that a professor of religion and history over at ECU was teaching a class and asked some of us local witches if we would answer student questions as a personal perspective on the practices of magic and witchcraft that are modern. And I'd already responded with a video that I should probably post. But anyway, there was a follow-up question, and so I promised them I would respond to that. So the follow-up question says that the student asked how spells work and would like to specify that they're interested in the physics of the magic. Quote, how do my words, rituals, and intentions affect results in the world? Is there some kind of spiritual energy that picks up on my spoken word and activities and activates my desires? Good question. I am also very interested in the physics, or the metaphysics in this case, behind how magic works. So the professor had asked if there was any place that I'd already blogged or responded to this sort of question, and honestly I had to say, well, bits and pieces in all of it, especially what I used to seed my new book, which is coming out in December, called Elemental Witchcraft. Well, that whole series is basically about the mechanics of how magic works and then how to use it and the techniques and such. So, all right, so the short answer here: how do my words, rituals, and intentions affect results in the world? Okay, so it's based on a paradigm. It's hard to do a simple answer to this. Okay, so the entire paradigm, the entire philosophy of that witchcraft is derived from, emerges from, is called Hermetic Philosophy, or at least my witchcraft is. Most of Wicca is also, whether it's acknowledged or not, based in Hermetic Philosophy. Hermetic Philosophy comes from a blending of Greek philosophies, Neoplatonic, Stoicism, going all the way back to Pythagoras and Plato and Aristotle and so forth, Socrates. When that came into Egypt, and those Egyptian scholars in Alexandria, Egypt, in the first 300 years of the Common Era, people who were trained in Neoplatonic Greek philosophy, yet were Egyptian by culture and affected by Egyptian religion and the teachings of an ancient Egyptian sage named Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes thrice greatest, which could have been the god Thoth himself, Thoth, Tahuti, Tot. There's many names, way of pronouncing that. But the Greeks saw this as the Egyptian form of Hermes, or Mercury in the Roman. It's a god of psychopomp, a god of magic and communication and travel between the realms, keeper of knowledge and wisdom. And the priests of ancient Egypt, the priests of Thoth, were said to keep the mysteries. Anyway, so there's a lot of writings that are attributed to this character, Hermes Trismegistus. But as was the tradition of the time, any student in that school of philosophy, if they wrote something, or if they had a conversation, or if they wrote what we call now a tractate, or a book of that in the modern form, what survived, we put together and call the Hermes, the Corpus Hermeticum. They would just say that Hermes wrote it, this ancient sage, or the god himself, or the first priest of Hermes who received a download. The stories vary, but anyway, this is a pagan philosophy, an ancient pagan paradigm that grew up in the same region of the world as neighbors at basically the same time, with Judaism and Christianity, and then later Islam. They're all kind of tangled together in their history. They did have influence on each other, but Hermetic philosophy is not from the Judeo-Christian tradition, though they do borrow from each other later a little bit. is pagan by our modern definition of that, in that it came from the classical world. Okay, so this paradigm is based on the notion that we are multiform beings. That is to say that there are multiple dimensions that exist concurrently in this space. It's complex, but for convenience, it's described in 3 realms throughout the Corpus Hermeticum and through the following works that came from that based on the Corpus Hermeticum, which later came to be studied as the science of alchemy. Alchemy being of root words that mean the magic of the black lands of Egypt. After it had moved into Persia, and therefore had Persian ideas, Persian magic also blended with it, and so there's sort of a cradle of coming together of these ideas in Persia, and then it emerges later under the more laboratory examination of these philosophies and how it applies to the material world came to be known as alchemy. Okay, where was I? I have just diverted myself away from the point. Allow me to digress. Okay, so three realms basically. There's the upper world, higher vibrational, the heavens is often what it's called, the above, that which is spiritual, purely energetic in nature, of a higher vibration or a more evolved, greater awareness, greater consciousness. The divine consciousness is the heavens. Then there's the middle world. That is all that is material, the manifest world of the cosmos, the stars, the sun, the planets, trees, plants, me, you, the bunny rabbits. Then there's the underworld. This is also a place of spirit, but those spiritual beings more connected to the middle world. So often we think of the underworld as being associated with the astral realm, which is governed by the moon, and the subconscious or unconscious mind, where we go to dream, where we might meet the spirits of the recently departed, or ghosts, the dead, not ghosts. When we perceive the spiritual being in the middle world, we might call it a ghost, before they transition. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that subject. Also, there would be spirit divas, spirits of nature, beings that are still directly connected to the manifest world, elemental beings, that kind of thing. Underworld, chthonic gods and goddesses are associated also there. So it's not strictly one or the other. It's like a gradation of what aspects of the spiritual energetic realm we just categorize them as either upper, middle, or upper or underworld, heavens or underworld. So in the Greek, it would be like Hades. You'd go to the underworld to find Hades, which is where the spirits of the departed are before they reincarnate. Okay. That was a digression as well. This is not a simple thing to answer. Anyway, but we exist in a multiform way in all 3 realms at all times. So the Hermetic philosophy is that Source, which was called Nous, N-O-U-S, was a divine mind, a supreme intelligence, and that Nous created the world by speaking the word. The word was reason in some translations. So from just the pure spirit, from pure chaos of the beginnings, the word, through the mind of divinity, created the world. It's a beautiful sort of Genesis story, and I go into it in depth in the cosmology section of my book, which I can't wait to share. But anyway, what comes of that is that there are 4 distinct elemental energies. There is mental, the air. There is fire, which is your will. Air and fire are associated with the upper worlds to a degree and with masculine forms of projective divinity. Then there is the underworld associated, or the middle world, I should say, associated more distinctly with the feminine receptive forms of divinity, and more directly with water, which is emotion and our feeling, and earth, which is our physical matter. And that when beings are created in the middle world, if they exist here at all, whether it be a tree, a flower, the bunny rabbit, me, you, anybody, that they are spirit, which has decided to manifest, has a purpose for manifesting, is choosing to manifest as this particular kind of thing, or being, or spirit. They come down through the mechanism that is the cosmos, which was described by astrology. In the old days, in old Hermetics, they called that the 7 celestial spheres, or the spheres of influence, governed by and named by the 7 wandering heavenly bodies that could be perceived of with the human eye back in the ancient world: the moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus, the sun, Saturn, and Jupiter. Not in that order. Anyway, the way that mechanism is moving, it's a big fractal pattern. So if you are into fractal geometry, if you're into the holographic theory of the cosmos from physics, it's basically describing that in a little different way. So that is a mechanism of fractal patterns that are, if you could imagine that all the heavenly bodies were drawing with like a pencil on a giant canvas that is the cosmos. Their movement in a 3D way, their movement creates swirling patterns that intersect each other. If you were to just draw that, it would look like a fractal pattern. It would look a lot like a holographic plate, which is when you create a hologram, you make a plate, and it just looks like swirling fractals. But when you project laser light through it, a 3D form emerges, like a sculpture of light. Well, we perceive the cosmos, the physical world, as much like a 3D sculpture of energy. And that sculpture is defined or cast, like molded by the moment in the celestial mechanism that spirit merged with flesh. So the moment of birth, or moment of germination, moment of creation. Within that, they call that destiny. But we exist concurrently at all times in the upper world with our highest divine self, the bit of spiritual Godhead that emerges down through the mechanism of destiny. We have that inherent divinity. Nous is within us. We also are connected to the underworld via our subconscious, our unconscious. It's where we go to dream at night. That is the closest spiritual realm to us in the above, that or in the spiritual realm that we impact. Our thoughts, our dreams, our feelings, our emotions are connected in that astral realm governed by the moon. And so we also dwell there at all times. We also dwell within all the realms of the middle world as connected by our physical form. Our physical flesh dwells within, or is formed by the earthly realms, which is an energetic realm that associates with earth and forms physical material. We are connected through the airy realms, which feeds our thoughts and ideas and perceptions. We're connected through the fiery realms, which is our willpower, our energy, our sacred mission, our gusto, our passion. We're connected through the watery realms, through our emotions and our feelings, and we dwell there at all times. Now, I call it the fivefold self, because my whole stuff is based on the pinnacle path, or the pinnacle approach to all of this. The idea. Now here we get to the quick answer. How does magic work? Why do the spells? Why do my words? Why do my rituals, my techniques work? There's a very complex answer to that, but simply speaking, we exist at all times in connection through ourselves to those realms. Those realms are in a constant state of being created, of forming based on our perception of those things, our ideas about what they are supposed to be. Quantum mechanics comes into play, especially the idea of quantum that is called consciousness creates reality, or even David Bohm's ideas, though he wouldn't agree that it has anything to do with witchcraft. Wholeness in the Implicate Order, a physics book he wrote in the 80s, also affirms the Hermetic idea, in that what we expect to happen, our preconceived ideas, the observer of our lives, we are constantly informing how the physical world is created by our expectation, by the fact that we're looking at it. And it is constantly folding and unfolding from the spiritual or implicate realms into the explicate or the outwardly manifested realms, and it's constantly updating all the time. So that's a little bit of David Bohm's language, but it's basically the same idea. As above, so below; as below, so above. And that old Hermetic axiom is basically saying that the spiritual and the physical realms mirror each other. So now we got to create a mirror for what we want. The way that I do that magically, all my words, all my techniques, all the ritual things are really just outer mechanisms to get my mind, and not just my conscious mind, but my subconscious mind. I got to get all the way down into my unconscious. I got to convince myself deep that what I'm doing is possible and real, and I want to create my idea. I got to speak the word. That's why there's incantations. Just like the divinity in the outer world, there is the divinity of news within me, and I can speak the word. So words of power are very important. My choice of words are important. It doesn't matter what language it's in. What's important to me? Okay, so I get my mind, conscious and unconscious, engaged. I speak the word. I get my feelings behind it. I gotta want it deep. And I got to put all my gusto and my emotion into it. I got to get my fires into it. What am I doing? So just doing ritual, putting it all together, making it happen, putting my actions behind my intentions gets that going. I got to put my body into it. I got to do something real and physical. I got to engage. So I tend to sing, I tend to dance, I tend to move. There are postures and mudras. There are all kinds of physical things we do, and those are guided by tradition. Those techniques could be tried and true because someone tried it and it worked, or it didn't work and they tweaked it and then they taught someone else. They do get codified over time. Those codified things, the magic words, the techniques, the whatnot, gain their own power over time the more people do them. So you can get a little more oomph by following a recipe or a spell or a script from some other tradition. Or if you believe it's strong enough, you can create your own. But I'm creating by opening a channel of power through myself. Now, in Hinduism, they codified that as the chakra system. There's an energy conduit that flows through me. It flows like a giant torus of energy. Energy is constantly flowing through me, down through the heavens, through the celestial spheres, through the destiny of the moment, entering in into my body, actually up through my root chakra, coming all the way up through me, connecting all the 5 levels of self and all the aspects of spirit above and below, out through the crown chakra, to the heavens, back down around all the time. If I can open up that channel within myself and align it completely with my ideas and my passions and my actions and my physical self, then my mind can create reality. Now, the easiest way to get what you want is to understand the celestial mechanism of astrology, the tides of nature, the tides of the moon, where we are in the mechanism, because things are manifesting based on where they enter in the mechanism, which is why astrology is very important. Tides of the moon are very important. You got to know where we are in the mechanism and what sorts of things easily become real and manifest and are born into this world at that moment. So, timing is important. And people who say otherwise, I imagine they're rather frustrated with how difficult it is to get what they are asking for. And I give this metaphor all the time. If you're a sailor you have, on the ocean, like in a boat, you have to understand the moon and how tides work and how they affect the water. Now that's a very physical way of seeing how the lunar tides and the relationship between the moon and the earth, and moreover, where is the earth on its path around the sun at this moment? At the very least, you have to understand those things, which time you will understand, like a scientific truth, that at this time period the water in the harbor is going to be this deep. It's going to be pretty deep, which means that if I've got a rudder in my boat and I want to get in and out of that harbor, I'm going to have to wait till the tide is just so and flowing in with me, so there's enough water and it's pushing just so, and I can get into the harbor easily. Same thing once I'm in the harbor at low tide. If it's so low that my rudder is stuck in the sand, I can go out there and sing and dance and chant to the moon and put my oars in the water and row until I'm exhausted. But if my rudder's stuck in the harbor floor because there's not enough water to get out, it doesn't matter how much effort I put into it, how much I believe, how much I chant, how many ancient techniques I put into play to try to get my boat to move. If it's not the right time cosmically, I'm just wasting my energy. I gotta wait till the tide come back in, then there'll be enough water and I can flow back out, no problem. Where there's really no, it's just no good ignoring that. So, this is my cat Min, by the way. Anyway, all that to say, the way that it works is that I understand the metaphysical mechanics of the cosmos. I understand that thought and perception creates reality. I understand that things that are in alignment with my highest divine will and flow with my stars of destiny will be very easy to manifest. I also understand that I could try to go against that, and it's going to take some energy, but it's not impossible. But things that are in alignment with my will work much easier. Or with my highest divine will, pardon me, my sacred purpose, the reason why I came here. And that the mechanism of where things are in that moment, for example, what's Venus doing right now? Well, if I want to do a love spell, I got to work with Venus, and there's many ways to go about that. If I'd like to open up my psychic development or have some intuition or insight, I'm going to work with the moon. If I'd like to work with success, money, accomplishment, getting what I want, the sun will come out tomorrow, all those happy blessings, I'll work with the sun. What's going on with the sun and what relationship is the sun to where I am right now on my path of earth around the sun? That's dictated by the zodiac, things like, are we in Aries or are we in Taurus right now? Same thing, the moon's going around the earth. What sign is it in? That's going to govern what energies come in. So if I say I want to do a spell for riches, and I want it to grow, I'm going to do that. Most likely, I'm going to pick a day when the moon is waxing close to full, which is at its largest full, it's like high tide, in an earth sign, because earth governs money. That would be my ideal time to do that, as an example. And then I would work with Venus, for example, associated also with the physical realm, and governs Taurus. So perhaps I would find a time when the sun is in Taurus, like it is now. I'd also find a time when the moon is in an earth sign. There's 3 of them, so surely one of them will land in the waxing moon cycle. And the closer I can get to the full moon, the better. It doesn't have to be the actual peak. It just has to be waxing, in my opinion. All right, so that's how these things work. It aligns me with the mechanism of the cosmos. It opens me to my potential. It then uses my words and my emotions and my actions and my physical things to create in the middle world a mirror image of what I want to create in the spiritual world, right? Like a small symbolic thing, so like candles and poppets and bags and mojo hands and spell bottles and boxes. It doesn't matter what the physical thing is, but I create a representation of it here. I name it, I empower it, I say you are now mirrored in the spiritual realm, and because of the axiom, the Hermetic axiom, as above so below, as below so above, if I've created a spiritual template in astral realm, it therefore just must manifest as the physical real thing I asked for. That's why we work with symbolism. It creates this astral template, which then manifests as the real thing. And it works most easily when I'm asking for something that's feasible and a good idea. But anyway, so that's a 25-minute explanation. That's probably way more than the students of the Professor Dixon's class was asking for, but it's the nutshell version. And if you're looking for the full explanation of not only what is all that, what's it about, how do the paradigm, the ethics, the principles of Hermeticism, how do they impact how we act and our rituals, and why we stand in a certain way, and why we put our hands a certain way, and our posture, why do we say these magic words, why do we sing and chant and dance clockwise around this bonfire as opposed to counterclockwise, for example. All of that has a very specific meaning. It is not arbitrary. Once you understand the meaning, you can write those rituals, those techniques yourself. Doesn't have to be, the magic isn't because some old dude said do it 600 years ago. But if it's based in alchemy, if it's based in Hermetic philosophy, to me that works. To me, it's the isness of the cosmos, and it has never let me down. So that's my way too long version of this answer. Let's see if I got to all the points. Let's see. Is there some kind of spiritual energy that picks up? Yes. The divine cosmos, which is both inherent within everything and transcendent and can be appealed to as its own entity. That's what picks up on it. And it's our most close layer. We call that the astral realm. It's governed by the moon. It is our unconscious. So if we can dream it, we can make it, baby. So anyway, there's the answer. I hope that helps. Blessed be everyone. Have a beautiful Beltane. Hopefully I'll be doing more of these videos and posting as we lead up to the release of my book through Llewellyn on December 8th. Remember, it's called Elemental Witchcraft, A Guide to Living a Magical Life Through the Elements by me, Heron Michelle, and it is available for pre-order where you can order books. Here very soon I'll have a place through my own shop where it can be pre-ordered, and of course if you get it from me, it'll be signed and have some extra goodies with it. Anyway, blessed be. Have a great day, everybody.